Oh no, it's recording. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Garak here, your casual gamer dad, coming at you guys with another World of Warcraft Dragonflight video. In the wake of our recent Dragonflight review for now video, I went into small amounts of details of various systems or features or updated things that they threw into this expansion that I really enjoyed, and I listed them as pros versus cons. And I had mentioned that I was going to dive into a few of these in separate videos to go a little more in depth onto why I enjoy them and why I view them as a pro and enjoy doing them in this expansion. So nevertheless, the first one, obviously by this time I hope you have all seen it. I went over dragon riding. This time around we're going to be going a little more in depth in the new and improved crafting or professions systems. Keep in mind that this is only in the Dragon Isles. This is only for Dragonflight, so crafting everywhere else in previous expansion content, for now anyway, is going to operate as business as usual. I'm not sure. I think they might have updated the UI just to match, but beyond that, you're not going to get any benefit from anything else. I don't think. I could be wrong about that, but I haven't been messing around in previous expansion stuff, at least not with professions, since Dragonflight hit. So before I dive in, real quick disclaimer for you guys, just so that there is no confusion. These videos that I'm putting out with these updated systems, I mean, it's just a very short series. I think there's like really one more that I really want to go more in depth about, and beyond that, it's just going to start going into like gameplay videos or whatever I feel like doing. But these videos are not guides. This is not like a how-to. This is not like a here's how you're gonna master these systems, or here's like tips and tricks to get max ranking fast or anything like that. This is just me going into depth about the features, how they compare to previous features that are similar or the same, just done differently, and why I enjoy them and why I think they deserve to be mentioned when you're reviewing the overall content of this expansion. So if you're looking for a guide, I'll try to link the professions guides from Wowhead down in the description below, so you guys can really get into the nitty-gritties if you really want to. I hope this video kind of motivates people to pick up professions if you haven't already and get into crafting, because it's actually really good now. So without further ado, let's just get right into the actual content of this video. First of all, professions. What are, if you aren't aware of, if you're like a brand new World of Warcraft player and you hear people mention professions all the time, you have no idea what they are, because you're just following quests and you're just killing stuff and getting levels and gear and hoping to fight big bads. If that's the case, professions, what they are is, I mean, professions are crafting and gathering at the simplest level. They have been around since vanilla World of Warcraft. You can always have a maximum of 2 primary professions. You can double up on crafting, you can double up on gathering, you can do one of each, one crafting, one gathering. Whatever combination of those 2 you want to do, it's completely up to you if you want to do them. But you can't have any more than that. Now, you can choose to unlearn them and then come back and do them again if you want, but I don't know, I've never really had to do that, so I mean, that's what alts are for, right? Personally, for me, I've always been a minor blacksmith, and even though I like usually go through the motions in previous expansions, leveling up my skills to be the max skill rank and then just kind of leaving it there, I never really enjoyed crafting. Like, even back in vanilla, like, it was a grind, and TBC was really no different. And I think my biggest issue with crafting up until Dragonflight has always been the fact that no matter what you do, whatever the hell it is you're crafting, like, you might have an edge early on if you're like getting easy to get materials to make easy crafted gear that gives you a good power boost early on. Sure, that's when it has its advantage, but beyond that, once you hit endgame, you'll spend anywhere between, depending on how long you play a day, for someone like me in the current day, I'll spend like maybe an hour, 2 hours a week just gathering up materials and ores and whatever I need, And like it'll total out to be 2 to 3 weeks. But I mean, even back in like vanilla and TBC, it would take you almost a month to gather, to like really gun down and get all of the materials you needed for one single craft, whether it was a piece of armor, a weapon. In TBC, they introduced a jewel crafting, so there were accessories and gems. In Wrath of the Lich King, they introduced inscriptioning, so like glyphs and stuff. It could take you a long time to do it. And why I don't like this is not because of the grind. I don't care about the grind. It's the fact that you would put all this time, all of this effort, all of this gold, getting all these materials. You make this thing, you get one skill point. Okay, you get one fucking skill point rank up. And then you wear that thing for like a week. And then you replace it with something you get in raid, or replace it with something from a world quest because it's just better. And you're like, what the fuck is the point? Basically, by the time you hit endgame, save for a few niche pieces here and there in the past, let's face it, crafting has basically been obsolete. You know, it just wasn't worth it. Now, there are a few professions, like enchanting, alchemy, and, what's the other one? Jewel crafting. Those three will always be relevant no matter what, because everybody always needs those things. You always need gems for your armor. You always need enchants. And I mean, what serious raider doesn't carry like potions and elixirs on them, right? So those were always relevant throughout entire expansions, no matter what. But everything else, leatherworking, blacksmithing, tailoring, inscriptioning, you know, all those professions were just like, they'd have one or two things here and there that would be like, okay, like, yeah, like that's worth having the profession, I guess. But beyond that, it was like most of the stuff you didn't even look at. You didn't even want to, because it just wasn't worth the time and the effort. It's like, why spend 2-3 weeks getting materials, spending gold to get this thing, only to have it replaced in like 2 days? You know, just wait the extra 2 days and there you go. There's your upgrade. Congratulations. You didn't have to waste all that time and effort and money. I'm trying to think of good examples before I start diving into what's different now. Perfect example here, okay? So, back in vanilla, there used to be, actually there still is, I mean it's still available today, but there used to be a weapon called the Arcanite Reaper. Anyone who played back in those days, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Big old dual-bladed axe, big skull in the middle. I mean, you can get it as an heirloom now and use it from like level 1 all the way up to like 60. But there were many reasons why this weapon was very popular. One, it was a two-hander, so it was usable by like ret paladins, warriors, and I believe enhancement shamans. Anyone who played enhancement way back out in vanilla, feel free to comment and correct me if I am wrong. But just about anyone who could use two-handers wanted this axe because it was good and it looked cool. Plus, it was iconic because it was the same weapon that my boy High Overlord Saurfang used for like 1,000,001 expansions until he finally replaced it over in Legion and then replaced it again in BFA. But the thing is with this weapon, okay, is first of all, you would have to get your blacksmithing up to 300, because it used to be blacksmithing would start at skill level 1 and then it would go up to a maximum. So in vanilla it was 300. I think in TBC it was like 350, 375, something like that. In Wrath it was like 425. And it just kept getting higher and higher and bigger and bigger, all the way up until I think it was Warlords. Warlords of Draenor is when they finally were like, okay, we're squishing this all down, and they broke all of the professions. Get your dragon's ass out of my face, god dang it. They broke all of the professions up by expansion. So you'd have like Cataclysm blacksmithing, which would go 1 to 100. You would have Draenor blacksmithing, which would go 1 to 100. So you could level them each individually, and you only had to get 100 ranks in each one. So it made it a little more manageable and a lot less daunting to be like, oh god, I gotta get like 600 ranks. But nevertheless, I digress. You would have to get max blacksmithing to 300. You would have to get the pattern for the Arcanite Reaper, which you could buy off the auction house, I believe, or you could get it as a drop. Once you had the pattern, you had to get the materials. And most of the materials, if I'm not mistaken, were, I mean, easy-ish to get, except for the Arcanite bars, you needed, I think it was 10 Arcanite bars. And to make Arcanite bars, you needed, I think, 3 different materials. One of which you could get pretty easy if you were also a miner, but the other 2 you had to farm for. They were just random drops, and you had to farm for them. Or, again, buy them off the auction house. Money. Once you got all of those materials for enough for 10 Arcanite bars, you had to find either one alchemist that you could hire basically for 10 days, or a friend who was an alchemist that you would log in for 10 days, use their transmute spell by being an alchemist to transmute your Arcanite into an Arcanite bar after you gave them the mats. Or you'd have to hire 10 alchemists in one day, probably tip them pretty big, and have them all transmute 10 all at once. And then finally, you could craft your Arcanite Reaper. That's a lot of fucking work for one axe. And then the best part about it is you'd get it, you'd bring it into a raid to be like, ooh, look at my new weapon, I'm going to do the max Dippus. And then, of course, Murphy's Law, right? You're going to turn around and something like OEB drops that same night. And now you're like, well, there goes my Arcanite Reaper. Because that's exactly what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me. It was raid night. I finally completed my Arcanite Reaper. I said, guys, I'm going in as DPS warrior tonight. I'm going to hit things with my new axe. They said, okay. We shuffled some rolls around. We went in the raid, killed a few bosses. Sure enough, the second to last boss for the night that we killed, I forget who it was that dropped it, but Obsidian Edge Blade. Boom. Right there. Big old greatsword. And I was just like, same day that I had my Arcanite Reaper, I gave it up for two-handed greatsword. So I didn't even really get to enjoy the fucking thing. And it made me think, why? What's the point? What was the point of doing all of that effort to use an axe for less than 24 hours and have it replaced? Right? And then as expansions went on and on and on, the pattern remained the same. You would put in all this effort, you'd craft this awesome thing, and then you'd replace it like a week, 2 weeks later. And it was just like, what was all that for? Right? And then they started to punish you if you weren't a raider, because they're like, we're going to give you this cool crafted stuff, but it's not going to be relevant. Like, it'll be like eye level like 350, but, you know, you can get eye level like 375 from fucking world quests and heroic dungeons. So, really no point in crafting anything. It's just a waste of time. GG. And it just felt like useless. It's just like, why? Why am I going to grind the skill, grind getting mats, and then fucking craft this thing that isn't even going to get used? What, for transmog? Cool, right? Not anymore. The new system, if I may show you, is a lot more different. It's a lot more intuitive. It's a lot more involved. And the best part is, if you go to professions here, you open it up, all of this gear here, that, well, at least this stuff, the epic stuff that I have, can essentially be relevant later on in this expansion if they keep up the pattern. So for instance, let's just take, oh my god, I'm like lowering everything here. Let's just take these Primal Molten Pauldrons. Okay, if I open up my character window, you can see I'm wearing item level 384, but you can see here, this is going to tell you, based on the quality, with the current materials that are selected, I can get up to item level 392 at the baseline with the worst materials, and I'll go into what I mean by worst materials. At the lowest skill possible with the least materials, you will get item level 382 or 392. However, you got all these goodies right here in different quality of materials as well. And you can see, if I take this, I happen to have one. And it says here, sets item level based on crafting quality, 395 to 405. If I select this thing, dun, 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 suddenly it goes up. Item level 405 is the max that it can get by just putting this one little thingy in here. And now, I mean, I don't have any other materials I can add in here. I mean, I've got some Wraithfire oil, but boom, okay, that brings this up a little bit. And there's all kinds of different things that you can add to really boost it up. I think maximum, with maximum skill, best crafting gear, which I'll go over in a minute, highest quality materials, again, which I'll go over in a minute, all your optional regions and finishing regions, and with your specializations maxed out for everything to really, really dive it home and maximize everything you got. I'm pretty sure you can get close to 425 item level gear right now through crafting. And if I'm not mistaken, that is equivalent to Mythic raids. You can see I was checking out Raid Finder stuff. Let's see, Mythic. We'll go to Razageth. 424 is the highest item level you can get from Mythic raiding. 424. Okay. The lowest from Aranog would be 415. So I may be a little wrong on that. I think the maximum you can get from these pieces of gear with this infusion is probably not 405, but like with all of your boosts and bonuses, inspiration, etc., you probably get close to like 410. You're basically going to get a mythic level, eye level piece of gear that you get to customize your stats on. You pick what stats you want on the fucking thing, and then you get to add cool little perks like, like I use, which one is it? This one? Yes, I use this one, Blue Silken Lining. While above 90% health, you gain a mastery perk. You can see it's right here. Zone of Focus, mastery increased by 183. Like, come on now. Good shit. Okay. And if they continue this trend and they continue to add more items like these, where you're able to add them on through this little system right here called recrafting, you can improve it to go even higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. You see what I mean? You'll be able to keep your gear relevant all the way through the entirety of the expansion. And that, my friends, makes me so happy, because I don't raid Mythic. I'm not a raider. I do LFR, maybe normal, if I'm having like a good day and I got tons of time on my hands. Beyond that, that's pretty much what I do. So I'll never see this high-end gear where I can just like strut around and just like solo, dump truck everything in the world, because I've just got the super high eye level. Through crafting, I now will be able to do that. And if they continue this trend, this is going to be a huge positive for the people that aren't able to raid but still want gear to keep themselves relevant with the rest of the crew, rest of the crowd, rest of the player base, so that if they decide they want to get into it, they're not going to hinder the group because of their gear. They'll just hinder their group because of like, well, I'm still learning these fights and my skills kind of meh. At least then you can say like, this is where my roadblock is, versus, well, it's just my gear sucks. And then they're like, oh well, too bad. Because then you just start running in circles, right? Can't run the thing because you don't have the gear, but you can't get the gear because you can't run the thing, right? This avoids that, and I love it so much. So let's dive into just a little bit deeper, and I'll try to make it quick-ish, short story long. But this is the new UI. Okay, you can see maximum is 100 skill. I'm not quite there yet, working on it. You have your list of recipes here. I like this because it tells you what you have and what you don't have, so you can see there's still a ton of stuff that I can learn. It's going to tell you what you're going to be able to learn from these. So these here, you obviously guaranteed chance of gaining 3 skill ups, right? And if I come down here, you can see that these are just kind of meh. They're meh. I mean, these are first crafts. I haven't crafted any of these yet. I should, because that's 3 knowledge right there, but I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, it's very intuitive. It's straightforward. It tells you exactly what's going to happen. Oh, I've never crafted this either. God. Anyway. And this is going to show you the recipe. This is going to show you the materials you need. And then you have these here. So you can add all these optional reagents. So for like a regular piece of gear, we'll go here. This is just something you get like just from a trainer. These are your materials that you need just to craft it baseline. And these are the optional things that you can add here. So you can see even a piece of blue gear that you learned from the mining, the blacksmithing trainer. You can add one of these. And boom, this thing will go all the way up to 382, so just under my epic gear. And again, by doing this, you can use these items here, Draconic Missives, which are made by inscriptionists, you can customize your stats. You put whatever the fuck stats you want on here. You wanna build a PvP set for arms? There you go, crit haste. Or sorry, not crit haste. Where is it? Crit mass, crit versatility right here. Boom. You want to do PvP as Fury? I'm pretty sure we've got haste versatility right here, or mastery versatility, right? Like if you want to do PvE, where is it? Haste mastery right here. Bam. You pick the stats. This window here is your crafting details. This tells you the difficulty of the recipe. This is usually like the minimum skill you need to make. Yeah, so it says determines how much skill is required to make this recipe at the highest quality. Okay, I apologize. At the highest quality. This is your current skill. So you can see I'm at 165, so my baseline is 85, and then I get a plus 10, and then additional pluses from specializations and such. We'll go into that in a minute. Inspiration. So inspiration is a stat. Now these crafting stats are all brand new, just so you know. But basically, inspiration is a stat where if you proc it, it basically boosts your skill by a huge amount. It basically guarantees you're going to get the next level of quality on your craft. So even if you only have enough skill and resources to get your item to, say, the 4 blue diamonds to get to eye level 340, if you get an inspiration proc, you're pretty much going to get maximum 343 quality. So inspiration is good. The higher inspiration, the better. You can see right now my current is 25%. I have a 24.1% with plus 12 bonus skill. Resourcefulness. Resourcefulness reduces the amount of reagents needed to craft it. It procs when you craft it, so essentially you get reagents back. And then of course crafting speed is just, you know, however long it takes you to craft it. That I don't really care about craft speed, that's whatever. What else? And then up here in this little corner here is your gear. There's crafting gear now. It's usually 2 accessories like pieces of clothing and then an actual like tool. You can see I have the black dragon touched hammer for blacksmith. This is a really rare drop from a rare mob in the Waking Shores, and I was lucky enough to get it on like my 10th kill, which was pretty cool. And this is amazing. I mean, plus 118 inspiration. You can choose to customize the stats on it when you craft it, just like anything else, because you can see it is craftable. Where are you? Weapons, tools, here we go. Boom, boom. So you can see it's craftable. As long as I have all of these guys here, I can make it. You can see right now I can't really do anything because I don't have these or these, but you can customize stats. You can give it, you know, inspiration, craft speed, multi-craft, resourcefulness. Obviously inspiration is really what we want, so I went with the highest quality. Just by having it, you get plus 10 to your skill. That's where my plus 10 is coming. And then there is during crafting, increases the skill provided when inspired by 15%. That's massive. So it just takes an already massive boost from an inspiration proc and makes it even better. So good. So good. And right now, because of when I crafted it, it's only I-378, 2 silver stars. I used pretty crappy materials. If I went and recrafted this bad mamma jamma, you can see I would only need a certain amount of things. It would keep my extra stuff, and boom. I could choose to recraft it and try to get a higher thing. Now, of course, right now, it's not giving me any extra boosts because I don't have any obsidian seared alloy to put in. If I have highest quality mats, there's going to be a bit of a different story. But you can do this with all of your gear. You can recraft it to try and improve it to a better tier. Like I can boost this up and it's going to go bam, super high. But I'm not going to waste that right now. But you can see it costs fewer reagents. It keeps all of the stuff you've already put on the initial craft. And you can add more infusions, finishing touches, whatever you want to try and give yourself better stuff. Recrafting is great. I love it. You can see my other pieces of gear here. I have a smithing apron. It's just whatever gives me inspiration. Multicraft, and then Draconium Smith box, which I crafted myself. Of course, I don't have the blue version yet. I'm working on that. Resourcefulness, crafted speed. I didn't customize the stats on this. I just kind of went with what I had. Yeah, crafting gear, man, it makes a difference. Like, you don't need the crafting gear. I could take all of this off and just craft whatever I want, but you're gonna miss out on a ton of bonuses, which is a shame. Now, let me talk about where all these bonuses are coming from, okay? Again, I'm not going to go too in-depth on everything that the stats do and what's the best build, because this is not a guide. Wowheads for that. I'll have a link in the description below. But basically, just real quick, let me touch on specializations. So when you start off, you'll notice you have a tab down here. This is specializations. For blacksmithing, you can see we got hammer control, specialty, weaponsmith, and armor smithing. These are changing slightly in the upcoming patch. I think it's next week. The requirements to unlock all of these are being kind of lowered. So I think it's like when you reach 10 skill, you get your first one. So you can, and it doesn't matter which one you pick. You can pick any of these. And then I think it's at like 25 skill, you unlock the second one. So you'll have 2. And now currently it's supposed to be, I think it goes at like 75 skill, you get your third. And then at max skill, you get your last. And they're lowering that. Now you're going to unlock your fourth one at 75 and your third one at 50. And this one at 25 and this one at 10. So, but you can see, like, for instance, example, blacksmith has access to armor smithing, weapons smithing, specialty, and hammer control. Now each and every one of these does something different, and they specialize in different things. So you can see with armor smithing, specialize in crafting plate armor, increasing your ability to craft at higher quality. In addition, learn new plans and ways to customize the armor for your craft. So when you start, you see it's kind of like its own little talent tree, right? And I'll go to one that I haven't learned yet, so you can see it's just empty. But it starts with a main node, and then you can branch off into sub nodes. And then you got these little wheelie deals over here, right? So basically for armor smithing, we started here, and you'll start off by getting a flood of knowledge. And what I mean by knowledge is, you'll see, if I go back to recipes, and so armor spikes, for instance, I've never crafted armor spikes. The first time you craft anything, you will proc this, and you will get 1 point of knowledge in whatever profession it is. So I get 1 point of blacksmithing knowledge. That 1 point can be spent here. So you can see I have 30 points in here. Why? Well, you got these little nodes here. And every time you learn a new one, you'll automatically get this first one, right? Because you can see these all have 0 in them, because I've only grabbed them just to get the patterns for now. And you can see it says here, learn this pattern, learn this pattern, learn this pattern. So on the main one, it just tells you right here, learn to use optional reagents to upgrade item level on most armor plans. So here we go, there we go. Every time I craft armor, no matter what kind of armor it is, if it's plate armor, I'll be able to put optional reagents. Cool. And as you put more knowledge points into this, you're going to fill up this bar, and you'll get to these little diddly nodes here. And you got to read them to understand what they do, okay? So like this one gives me +5 inspiration when I'm just crafting any plate armor. That's good. That's a +5 boost to my inspiration. And then when you put 10 points in, you get to learn a sub-spec of your choice. So now you get to pick between one of these nodes. And then now say we move down to here, because I want to craft pauldrons, right? So we take sculpted armor, and again, we'll only have 1 point, so we'll boom, learn to use optional reagents to specify the secondary stats on sculpted plate armor. So anything related to these, I can now add those secondary stat optional reagents. Cool. Okay, 5 points into this. We get +10 inspiration whenever crafting armor for head, shoulders, or feet. And then upon 10, we get a sub-spec. Oh, now I can learn the actual pieces. And then you can see, I only have the initial thing in here to get the pattern. But if I want to drop more knowledge when I get it, I can go up. I can get +5 skill, +5 skill, +5 skill. I learned to craft some finishing reagents, +5 skill, and then at max, I'll learn a special ability to craft master's hammers to freely repair plate armor for no cost. That's fantastic. And then this will give you a little rundown. If you hover over the middle, become an expert at crafting plate armor, blah blah blah, getting +1 skill per point in this specialization. So not only are you getting these bonuses, but you're gonna get +1 skill per point for this specialization. So when crafting pauldrons, if I have 30 points, I get +30 skill plus these. So 30, 35, 40, 45, etc, etc, etc. Knowledge, man. Right now, knowledge is a little limited. You can see, and I mean, there is a way to, you could look at it as making wrong choices, because you'll realize there are things that maybe you should have focused on first. But ultimately, as they've said, you will eventually get enough knowledge points to just unlock and max out everything. So don't worry about spending your knowledge points. If you're like, oh shit, you know, I didn't really want to make helms yet, I wanted to make boots, it's fine, man. Just move on, just keep doing it. But yes, anything that you want to focus on, make sure you pay attention to these, the little subnodes, the middle node, everything. Knowledge, man, you'll get it from everything. You'll get it from crafting things for the first time. You'll get knowledge for finding items while mining or looting things related to blacksmithing. There are special things littered around, and there will also be, I think I have one here, yeah, there will be quests in Valdrakken where, like, for this one it says, like, you know, fulfill 3 blacksmithing orders, work orders, and they'll give me, hold on, I didn't show you guys the reward, they'll give me this. Increases my blacksmithing knowledge by 3. So with 3 knowledge points, I could go in here, I could go to specializations, and I could blow those 3 points on whatever I want to advance up higher. See what I mean? Sounds complicated, but once you start doing it, you go, oh, okay, makes sense. And that is, I don't know if she's waking up or just making noise. She's a very noisy sleeper. Sorry. That's pretty much all I have as far as, without going too in deep and like really turning this into a guide. So that's pretty much it for the new profession system, guys. I think this is very good. I think it's taking a step in the right direction. It's going to make anything that you craft relevant through recrafting. It gives those of us who like to focus on crafting, like these work orders, I won't go into it, you can check the guide on them, but crafting orders, if you ever can catch one, because they're hard to catch, you can make a little money. And I really want to see them continue this forward throughout the rest of the expansion, keeping everything relevant and then doing it in further expansions and making everything relevant so that you don't have to raid or run Mythic Plus to get good gear. You can just be a crafter, because you can argue all you want, well, I spend 6 hours a week on raids, like that's not fair that you can just craft something. Okay, you spend 6 hours a week on raids, I spend 6 hours a week grabbing, you know, a ton of ore from mining stuff, doubling that up so I can get the rare mats that don't always drop from the mining nodes that I need. Oh, and then there's the every 2 week Spark of Ingenuity that I can only get 1 of every 2 weeks, and sometimes I need 2 of them. So you want to tell me about putting in the time, guys? There you go. Okay, I think this video's gone on long enough. This is a big pro. I hope my little explanation on how it works nowadays and how viable it is, especially in the late game, motivates some of you guys to really like explore crafting if you haven't already and really get into it. Last but not least, you know, before I sign out, I just want to touch on these here. There are 3 secondary sub craftings that you can take: cooking, fishing, and archaeology. Anyone can take these. You are not limited on them. They are what they are. I mean, cooking is, you know, you can see I've barely touched it, but cooking is just making food. Eventually you'll be able to make like food that like gives you buffs, like crit and versatility, stuff like that. Fishing is just fishing. I mean, I can't, there's nothing to really tell about fishing. You go to water, you click this button, and you catch fish. And archaeology, I haven't done archaeology since BFA, as you can see, because it's still at like 950 skill. But archaeology is basically, you just kind of like survey areas and you try to dig up cool artifacts. Sometimes they're not really worth anything, and sometimes you can find really cool diddlies. I can't really see one now, but you can get like pets or toys or even weapons from it, so heirlooms and stuff. So yeah, like I said, check out the crafting system, guys. It's been updated, it's worth it, it's cool, it's fun. And I'm gonna sign off because I've been rambling on too long about this, so I hope this was crystal clear for you guys. If not, feel free to judge it in the comments below, but be a little nice. Other than that, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up. And if you want to see more from my channel, if you want to follow more of my future WoW content, or if you want to follow my Final Fantasy XIV content, or anything else that I happen to start throwing up on the channel when I get more time, hit that subscribe button so you can get notified and help my channel grow. And I will see you guys in the next video.